The bus rumbled to a stop 3 blocks from what I'd called home for 21 years, and I felt that familiar flutter of excitement mixed with exhaustion. Finals week had drained me completely, but the thought of mom's cooking and my own bed kept me moving forward, dragging my overstuffed duffel bag behind me. Spring semester had been brutal, engineering courses stacked on top of each other like a precarious tower, and I'd barely slept more than 4 hours a night for the past month. But I'd made it. Dean's List again? Dad would be proud. The May sunshine felt warm on my face as I turned onto Maple Street, already imagining the surprise on Mom's face when I walked through the door a day early. I'd finished my last exam ahead of schedule and caught an earlier bus, wanting to maximize every precious hour of summer break before my internship started in June. Home was a modest 2-story colonial with blue shutters that Dad had painted the summer before he died, back when I was 16. According to YouTube analytics, 99% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Mom had kept them that exact shade of blue ever since, a small memorial to the man who taught me that integrity meant everything, and that hard work never went unrewarded. Except the scene that greeted me as I approached our house made no sense at all. My belongings were scattered across the front lawn like debris after a tornado. Not just a few items, but everything. My childhood bookshelf lay on its side in the grass, books splayed open with their spines cracked. My clothes hung from the fence like surrender flags. My laptop bag sat in a puddle near the driveway. My grandmother's quilt, the one she'd stitched by hand before she passed, was draped over a bush, collecting pollen and dirt. I stopped walking. My brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. This had to be a mistake. A robbery? But nothing was stolen, just thrown out. Vandalism? But it was only my things, carefully selected and ejected from the house. My hands started shaking as I dropped my duffel and moved toward the lawn. I picked up my laptop bag first, unzipping it with fumbling fingers. Water had seeped through the fabric. My laptop, the one I'd saved for months to buy, the one that held 4 years of coursework and projects, was ruined. The screen was cracked, and water dripped from the keyboard when I tilted it. No, 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 I whispered, setting it down carefully as if gentleness now could somehow undo the damage. I spotted my photo albums next, the physical ones Mom had insisted on keeping. Because technology fails, but photographs last forever. They were soaked through, images of Dad bleeding into unrecognizable watercolors. My diploma from high school, my acceptance letter to university, framed and treasured. My engineering textbooks, worth hundreds of dollars, swollen with moisture and coming apart at the bindings. The front door of the house was closed. The windows were shut. Everything looked normal, except for the yard sale of destruction that was apparently my entire life. I walked up to the door and tried my key. It didn't work. The lock had been changed. That's when I heard the laughter. High-pitched, feminine, unfamiliar. It came from inside the house, followed by Mom's voice, warmer than I'd heard it in years. I knocked. Pounded, really. Mom, Mom, it's me. What's going on? The laughter stopped. Footsteps approached the door, but it didn't open. Instead, Mom's voice came through the wood, and it sounded nothing like the mother who'd hugged me goodbye 3 months ago. Maya, you need to leave. I pressed my hand against the door, as if I could push through it with sheer confusion. Mom, what are you talking about? Why is all my stuff outside? My laptop is destroyed. The albums are ruined. I told you not to come back here. Her voice was cold, clinical. I sent you an email 2 weeks ago. What email? I've been in finals. I barely checked anything except school messages. That's not my problem. There was a pause, then a man's voice in the background, deep and commanding. I heard him say something I couldn't make out, and Mom's voice changed, became almost apologetic. But not to me. To him. Then she spoke again, louder. You're not welcome here anymore, Maya. I've moved on with my life, and there's no room for you in it. Brad and I are starting fresh, and Sienna needs your room. You're an adult now. You should have your own place anyway. Brad, Sienna. The names meant nothing to me. Mom, I don't understand. This is my home, Dad's house. You can't just... Your father is dead, she snapped. and the words hit me like a physical blow. He's been dead for 5 years. I'm allowed to be happy. I'm allowed to have a new family. New family? The phrase echoed in my head. How long had this been happening? How had I not known? When did this happen? I asked, my voice breaking. When did you meet these people? That's none of your business. Look, I left some money in the envelope taped to your bookshelf. It should be enough for a security deposit somewhere. But you can't stay here. Brad and Sienna are moving in this weekend, and I won't have you making things difficult. I looked back at the bookshelf lying in the grass. Sure enough, there was a manila envelope taped to it, already damp and peeling. I walked over and picked it up. Inside was $500 in cash and a printed email I'd apparently never seen. I read it with blurring vision. The email was dated 2 weeks ago, exactly as she'd said. It was brief, businesslike, informing me that she'd met someone special, that his daughter needed my room, that I was old enough to be independent now, and that I should make arrangements not to return after the semester ended. There was no warmth, no explanation, no apology, just instructions and that same $500 mentioned at the end. I'd been erased, edited out of my own mother's story like a comma in the wrong place. "Mom," I said, louder now, anger mixing with the grief. "I paid rent here last summer. I bought groceries. I helped with the mortgage after Dad died by working 2 jobs through high school. This is my home. You were contributing to a household you lived in. That's what adults do. It doesn't give you ownership." The door stayed closed. My mother, who'd read me bedtime stories and taught me to braid my hair and held me when we scattered Dad's ashes, was on the other side of a locked door, choosing strangers over her own daughter. I heard the man's voice again, Brad presumably, saying something about making a scene and the neighbors. Then a younger voice, teenage and bratty. Is she still out there? God, how pathetic. Something inside me crystallized in that moment. Not anger exactly, though that was certainly present, but something harder, clearer. A kind of dignity that my father had always embodied. He used to say that you can't control what people do to you, but you can control who you become in response. I looked at the destruction of my life spread across the lawn. 4 years of university, and I'd come home to this. I had $500, no home, and a summer internship that didn't start for 3 weeks. I had no apartment, no backup plan, because I'd never imagined I'd need one. But I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry on this lawn, where the entire neighborhood could watch. I wasn't going to give them that. I took out my phone and called my roommate from university, Jenna. She answered on the second ring. "Maya, aren't you home already?" "Change of plans," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Can I crash with you for a few weeks? I'll explain everything, but I need a place to stay." Jenna didn't hesitate. "Of course. My parents won't mind. Are you okay?" "Not really, but I will be." I spent the next 2 hours salvaging what I could. The neighbors watched from their windows and porches, and I saw Mrs. Chen from next door take out her phone, probably texting the neighborhood group chat. Let them watch. Let them wonder. The truth would come out eventually. What could be saved, I saved. What was destroyed, I documented with photos. My father had been an engineer too, practical and methodical, and he taught me to keep records. I didn't know why I'd need proof of this, but instinct told me to collect it anyway. I found a few garbage bags in the recycling bin and filled them with salvageable clothes. My grandmother's quilt went in carefully, though it would need serious cleaning. The photo albums I handled like they were made of glass, even though most of the photos were already ruined. Some memories of Dad might be savable if I worked quickly. As I worked, a car pulled into the driveway. Expensive, new. A man stepped out, tall and broad, with salon-perfect hair, and a watch that probably cost more than my semester's tuition. He looked at me like I was a stray dog on his property. "You must be Maya," he said, not offering to shake hands. "I'm Brad. I'm going to ask you once, politely, to finish up and leave. You're upsetting Claire." "Claire." My mother's name sounded wrong in his mouth. "I'm collecting my belongings that were illegally disposed of," I said evenly. "I'll be done soon." "There's nothing illegal about it. You're over 18. She gave you notice. That's more than generous." A teenage girl emerged from the passenger seat, scrolling on her phone. She looked up, took in the scene, and smirked. "Is this all her stuff? God, it's so much junk. I can't believe I have to wait for her to move it." Sienna, I presumed. She couldn't have been more than 15, with the kind of entitled posture that came from never being told no. "Sienna, get inside," Brad said, but without much force. She rolled her eyes and obeyed, still smirking. Brad turned back to me. "Look, kid, I don't know what kind of relationship you had with your mother, but things change. She deserves happiness. She's been alone for years, playing single mom, sacrificing everything. Now it's her turn. You'll understand when you're older." I looked at him directly for the first time. My father died when I was 16. My mother hasn't been alone. She's had me, and I've had her, or so I thought. We took care of each other. That was our family. Well, now she has a real family again, a complete family. You should be happy for her. The words were designed to hurt, and they did. But I didn't let it show. "I'm sure everything will work out exactly as it should," I said, which was an agreement, but was an argument either. It was something my father used to say, a kind of faith in the universe's sense of balance. Brad looked confused by my response, but shrugged and went inside. The door closed behind him, and I heard the deadbolt slide home. Mrs. Chen appeared at my elbow so suddenly I jumped. She was in her 70s, a retired teacher who'd lived on this street longer than I'd been alive. "I saw everything," she said quietly. "I heard some of it too. These walls aren't as thick as people think." She pressed a piece of paper into my hand. "My nephew is a lawyer. Family law. You call him." What she did might not be illegal, but it isn't right either. Your father's name is on this house. You might have rights. I looked at the paper. A name, a phone number, an email address. "Thank you," I managed. "Your father was a good man. He'd be proud of how you're handling this." She squeezed my arm. "And Maya, that man in there, Brad Thornton, I've seen his type before. Flashy car, expensive clothes, big promises. I've also seen his credit report, back when Claire asked me about him, since I used to work in banking. I couldn't say anything then, but you're not family to him, so I can tell you, that man is drowning in debt. Whatever he's selling your mother, it isn't stability." She walked away before I could respond. Back to her house where her husband was watching from the window with disapproving eyes aimed at my former home. I finished, packing what I could carry, the rest, the destroyed and unsalvageable, I left in a neat pile at the curb with a sign that read, "Free," in case anyone else could use what I couldn't save. Waste not, want not, as Dad always said. Jenna's parents picked me up an hour later. They didn't ask questions during the drive, though I could see Mrs. Torres glancing at me in the rearview mirror with concerned mother eyes. When we got to their house, Jenna had already made up the guest room and left a stack of clean towels on the bed with a note that said, "You're safe here. Take your time." That night, alone in a room that wasn't mine, in a house that was more welcoming than my own had been, I let myself cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet tears that soaked the pillow as I grieved for the mother I'd apparently lost without even knowing it. How long had she been pulling away? How many signs had I missed while I was buried in textbooks and equations? But I'd also inherited my father's practical nature. Grief was valid, but action was necessary, so the next morning I called Mrs. Chen's nephew. His name was David Chen, and he listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Here's the thing," he said finally. "Your mother is right that she can ask an adult child to leave. But the way she did it, destroying your property, that's potentially actionable. More importantly, you said your father bought this house." "Yes, before he married Mom. It was his." "And when he died?" "I don't know exactly. I was 16. I know Mom got the house. There was a will, I think." "Do you have a copy of that will?" "No, I never thought to ask." "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to request a copy of the will from probate court. If your father left you anything in that will, if he had any stipulations about the house, we need to know. Also, document every damaged item and its value. We might be able to pursue a small claims case for property destruction." "I don't want to fight with my mother," I said, feeling exhausted already. "I understand, but you also don't want to be walked on. Sometimes standing up for yourself is the kindest thing you can do for everyone involved. It sets boundaries. It says, 'I matter too.'" Over the next week, while I lived at the Torres house and helped with dishes and yard work to earn my keep, David worked on getting the will. I worked on my own projects, applying for additional student loans to cover next year's housing since I could no longer count on summers at home, reaching out to my internship to see if they could offer any employee housing or advance my start date. and creating a detailed inventory of everything that had been destroyed, with photos and estimated replacement costs. The total came to over $8,000. My laptop alone was worth $2,000. The damaged textbooks, another $1,000. My grandmother's quilt was irreplaceable, but I estimated its value, conservatively at $500. The photos, the clothes, the personal items, all of it added up. I also did something else. I wrote my mother a letter, not an angry one, though I had plenty of anger. A sad one. Honest. "Dear Mom," it began, "I'm not writing this to change your mind or to make you feel guilty. I'm writing it because I need to say these things, and because I think, somewhere under all the changes, the woman who raised me would want to hear them. You were my hero when Dad died. You held everything together when I was falling apart. You worked 2 jobs to keep us in this house, to keep me in my school, to maintain some sense of normalcy. I saw your sacrifice, and it made me want to be worthy of it. Every good grade, every scholarship, every achievement, I did it partly for me, but also for you. To make the sacrifice worth it, to make you proud. So when I came home to find my things on the lawn, it wasn't just about losing my room or my belongings. It was about realizing that maybe all along I misunderstood what we were to each other. I thought we were a team, a family, 2 people who'd survived loss together and come out stronger, but maybe you saw me as an obligation that you'd finally fulfilled, a job you could retire from. I don't know when you met Brad and Sienna. I don't know how long you've been building this new life without telling me, but I wish you had told me. I wish you'd said, "Maya, I'm dating someone. I'm thinking about my future. Let's figure this out together." Instead, you locked me out, literally and figuratively. I'm writing to tell you that I'm going to be okay. I'm staying with friends. I have a summer internship starting soon. I'll find my own way, because that's what Dad taught me to do. But I'm also going to stand up for myself, because that's what he taught me too. You destroyed thousands of dollars worth of my property. You changed the locks without legal notice. A lawyer has informed me that I may have recourse, and I'm exploring that. Not because I want to hurt you, but because actions have consequences, and someone needs to show Sienna what that looks like, since you apparently won't. I hope you're happy with Brad. I genuinely do. I hope he's everything you think he is. I hope this new family brings you the joy you're looking for, but I also hope that someday, maybe years from now, you'll look back on this moment and see it clearly. You'll see what you traded and what it cost. I love you, Mom. I probably always will. But I don't like you very much right now, and I don't know if that will change. Your daughter, Maya. I didn't send it. I wrote it, sealed it, addressed it, and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd send it. Maybe I wouldn't. The act of writing it was enough for now. 2 weeks after I was locked out, David called with news. "I got the will," he said, and something in his voice made me sit up straight. "Maya, you need to hear this. Your father left the house to your mother with one very specific condition. It would pass to you upon your 25th birthday or upon your graduation from university, whichever came first, as long as you were pursuing higher education in good faith. Your mother was to maintain it in trust for you. He wanted to make sure you'd always have a home, and that supporting you through college wouldn't be a financial burden that might tempt your mother to push you out early." I couldn't breathe. What? Your father saw this coming. Not this specifically, maybe, but the possibility. He protected you. The house is supposed to be yours when you graduate next year. Your mother has been living in a house that was always meant to be yours. But she told me I had no claim. She lied, or she forgot, or she convinced herself it didn't matter. But legally, she's in breach of your father's will. She can't sell the house, she can't mortgage it beyond the existing mortgage, and she definitely can't kick you out of it. What do I do? We inform her of the will's terms. We give her a chance to make this right. If she refuses, we go to probate court and enforce the will. The house should be yours. And Brad? Sienna? They can't move in. The house isn't your mother's to offer them. I felt something shifting inside me, not triumph exactly, more like the universe tilting back toward level after being knocked askew. "Send her the letter," I said. "The legal one. Inform her officially. Are you sure? This will detonate your relationship." I think she detonated it when she put my things on the lawn. I'm just responding. David sent the letter that afternoon. By that evening, my phone was ringing. I didn't answer. By the next morning, there were 14 voicemails and 32 text messages. I read none of them. I simply forwarded them all to David and asked him to handle communication. 2 days later, David called again. She wants to meet, with me present. She's claiming she didn't know about the will's conditions, that the lawyer who handled probate never told her. Is that possible? It's possible. It's also possible she knew and ignored it, hoping you'd never find out. Either way, the will is clear. Do you want to meet with her? Yes, I said. I want to hear what she has to say. We met at David's office, neutral territory. Mom came alone. Brad apparently wanted to come, but David had insisted on just family. When I walked into the conference room, Mom looked smaller than I remembered, older. There were lines around her eyes I hadn't noticed before, and her hair had more gray. She didn't stand when I entered. She just looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Maya, she said. Mom. David laid out the will's terms clearly. Mom listened without interrupting. When he finished, she folded her hands on the table. I didn't know, she said finally. The lawyer told me the house was mine. He said Jack had left it to me outright. I never read the full will. I couldn't. It hurt too much. Going through his things, dealing with the legal paperwork. I just signed what the lawyer told me to sign. That lawyer's name? David asked. She provided it. David made a note. We'll be looking into that. If he misrepresented the will's terms, that's malpractice. Mom looked at me. I'm sorry. About your things. About the way I did this. Brad was pushing for us to move in together, and Sienna needed her own space. And I wanted to be happy again. I wanted to feel like a woman instead of just a mother. Do you understand? I understand wanting to be happy, I said carefully. I don't understand throwing away your daughter to get there. I wasn't throwing you away. You're an adult. You're at university. I thought you'd understand. You didn't give me a chance to understand. You sent an email I never saw and changed the locks. You destroyed thousands of dollars worth of my property. You locked me out of my father's house, the house he apparently wanted me to have. Tears formed in her eyes. I made a mistake. You made several. What do you want? She asked. Do you want the house? Do you want me to leave? I looked at David, then back at her. I want what Dad wanted. I want to finish university knowing I have a home to come back to. I want the house to be mine when I graduate, as Dad intended. What you do until then is your choice. But you can't sell it, and you can't fill it with other people. If Brad and Sienna need somewhere to live, they need to find their own place. Brad already signed a lease ending his current rental. He's counting on moving in. Then he miscounted. Mom's tears spilled over. He's going to be so angry. That's between you and him. I love him, Maya. I'm sure you do, but that doesn't entitle him to my father's house. The meeting ended without resolution. Exactly. Mom said she needed time to think, to talk to Brad, to figure things out. David said she had 1 week to respond, and then we'd proceed with court action to enforce the will. I went back to the Torres house feeling drained but strangely calm. The truth was out. The lies had been exposed. Now we'd see what my mother chose to do with that truth. What she chose, as it turned out, was to tell Brad. And Brad, apparently, didn't take it well. The news reached me through Mrs. Chen, who called 3 days after the meeting. Maya, dear, you should know that there was quite a scene at the house last night. Yelling, doors slamming, Brad's car peeling out of the driveway at high speed. I think your mother's new relationship might be experiencing some turbulence. I'm not sure how I feel about that, I admitted. Feel however you need to feel, Mrs. Chen said wisely, but also know that sometimes the trash takes itself out. We just have to be patient. She was more right than she knew. Over the next week, through the neighborhood gossip network that Mrs. Chen had no shame about tapping into, I learned that Brad had not reacted well to the news that he couldn't move into a rent-free house. Apparently, the financial situation he described to my mother was significantly rosier than reality. The expensive car, leased, and behind on payments, the successful contracting business he owned, struggling, bleeding money on the verge of bankruptcy. The reason he was so eager to move into our house? He was being evicted from his current place for non-payment of rent. My mother, who had been so eager to start her new family, was apparently discovering that Brad's interest in her was directly proportional to her perceived assets. When those assets evaporated, so did his charm. I heard they had a massive fight. I heard Sienna threw a tantrum about not getting the big bedroom she was promised. I heard Brad accused my mother of trapping him with false pretenses. I heard my mother accused Brad of being a gold digger. I heard a lot of things, and none of them sounded like happiness. Then, exactly 1 week after our meeting, David called. Your mother wants to settle. She's acknowledging the will's terms. She's agreeing that the house will transfer to you upon graduation. She's asking if you'd be willing to let her continue living there until then, paying the mortgage and utilities. She says she can't afford to move right now, and the word she used was ashamed. Where's Brad in all this? Gone, from what I understand. The relationship ended badly, very badly. I sat with that information for a long moment. I could push. I could demand she leave immediately, find her own place, face the full consequences of her actions. I could be hard and cold and justified in my anger. Or I could be my father's daughter. Tell her yes, I said. She can stay until I graduate. She pays the mortgage, utilities, and home maintenance. But I want a formal agreement drawn up. I want everything in writing. And I want my belongings that were damaged compensated. She's already agreed to that. She's offering to pay the full $8,000 for damages. Then we have a deal. The paperwork took 2 weeks to finalize. During that time, my mother and I didn't speak directly. Everything went through David. Maybe that was cowardly, or maybe it was smart. Either way, it gave us both space to process what had happened. My summer internship started, and it turned out they did have employee housing available, a small efficiency apartment I could keep through the end of summer. It wasn't much, but it was mine, paid for by my own work. I settled in and tried to focus on the future rather than the past. Then, one evening in late June, my mother texted me. Just 3 words. Can we talk? I thought about saying no. I thought about making her wait, making her wonder, making her feel a fraction of what I'd felt standing on that lawn. But I wasn't that person, so I said yes. We met at a coffee shop halfway between her house and my apartment. Neutral ground again, but less formal than a lawyer's office. She was already there when I arrived, hunched over a mug of tea, looking like she'd aged 5 years in 5 weeks. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. I'm here. I want to explain. Not excuse, just explain. When your father died, something in me died too. I went through the motions for you because you needed me, but inside I was hollow. For 5 years, I was hollow. Then I met Brad, and he made me feel alive again. Not in a good way, I see now, but in a way that felt like feeling. After so long of being numb, he paid attention to me. He made me laugh. He made me feel like a woman instead of a widow. I understand that, I said quietly. But it doesn't explain throwing me away. I know, I think I convinced myself that you didn't need me anymore. That you were grown, independent, launched. That my job was done and I could finally think about myself. Brad reinforced that. He said you were holding me back, that I was too focused on being your mother instead of being my own person. He made it sound reasonable. Like I was just helping you become independent instead of abandoning you. That's a convenient way to frame betrayal. She flinched. You're right, it was betrayal. I betrayed your father's trust, and I betrayed you. And the worst part is, I knew better. I knew what your father would think. I knew he'd be disappointed, but I was so desperate to feel something other than grief and loneliness that I let myself believe lies. What happened with Brad? Everything Mrs. Chen probably told you. Plus worse. He was using me, Maya, the whole time. He was behind on rent, drowning in debt, and he saw me as a solution. A house, no rent, stability for him and Sienna. When he found out he couldn't have that, he turned mean. Said things I won't repeat. Made it clear that without the house, I wasn't worth his time. The relationship lasted exactly as long as it took him to realize he wasn't getting what he wanted. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Not sorry that the relationship ended, but sorry that she'd been used. Sorry that she'd traded real love for counterfeit attention. Don't be. I got what I deserved. Karma, I suppose. She smiled bitterly. Your father used to say that the universe has a way of balancing the scales. I never believed him until now. We sat in silence for a while, sipping our drinks. I paid the money into your account, she said, for the damages. I know it doesn't fix everything, but it's a start. Thank you. And I want you to know that I'm going to be out of the house before you graduate. I'm already looking for an apartment, somewhere small, affordable, somewhere that's just mine, earned honestly. I don't want you to walk into your own home and find me there, living off your father's legacy. You deserve better. Mom, the agreement says you can stay. I know what the agreement says, but it's not about the agreement. It's about what's right. Your father wanted you to have that house. He wanted you to have security and stability. He trusted me to hold it for you, and I almost violated that trust. The least I can do now is step aside gracefully. I felt something in my chest loosen, a knot I didn't know I'd been carrying. Where will you go? I found a small one-bedroom across town. It's not much, but it's within my budget. I'll be fine. And Maya? I'm going to start therapy. I should have done it 5 years ago, when your father died, but I thought I could handle it alone. I couldn't. I need help processing the grief, the loneliness, all of it, so I don't make the same mistakes again. That's good, Mom. Really good. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I am asking you to believe that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. And I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that I'm still the mother who raised you, underneath all the mistakes. I looked at her across the table, this woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, loved me, and then temporarily lost her way. She wasn't a villain. She was human, flawed, and broken, and trying. I believe you're sorry, I said, and I think eventually we'll find our way back to each other, but it's going to take time. I have time, she said, and Maya, your father would be so proud of you, the way you handled this, with dignity and strength and grace. You're more his daughter than mine, I think. I'm both of yours, I said. The good parts and the complicated parts. That's what makes me who I am. We finished our coffee and parted ways with a tentative hug, the kind that acknowledges hurt but suggests hope. It wasn't reconciliation, not yet, but it was a start. The rest of the summer passed in a blur of work and learning. My internship was challenging but rewarding, and I was offered a full-time position after graduation. The damaged laptop was replaced with the insurance settlement, even better than the original. The photo albums I painstakingly restored, salvaging what I could, and creating new memories around the damaged ones. My grandmother's quilt was professionally cleaned and repaired, and I hung it on the wall of my apartment as a reminder that even broken things can be made beautiful again. In August, my mother officially moved out of the house. She left it spotless, with a note on the kitchen counter. This house holds so many memories of your father. I hope you fill it with new ones. Love, Mom. I didn't move in right away. I finished my internship, returned to university for my senior year, and poured everything into my final semesters. Dean's List again. Job offer secured, future bright. In May, 1 year after I'd found my belongings on the lawn, I walked across the stage and received my engineering degree. My mother was in the audience, sitting 3 rows back, clapping with tears streaming down her face. We'd been rebuilding slowly, carefully, learning how to be family again. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. After graduation, I moved into the house. My house. The one my father had bought, the one he'd protected for me. The one he trusted would give me a foundation to build my life on. I painted the bedroom, replaced the furniture, and hung photographs of Dad in every room. He was gone, but his love had carried me through the